in the area of color therapy, or sometimes referred to as chromotherapy. It's considered in the West as a type of pseudoscience, but it may have some type of merit, and I think actually where most people would say it definitely has some type of influence is actually on emotions and mood. But let me get on to some of this stuff because some of it goes back to ancient Indian medicine, which is utilizing the chakra points of the body. And what you have is there's a color associated with the chakra points of the body. In other words, red being the first chakra, the base chakra, grounding and survival, is considered a sexual point, the base of the spine, the kidneys. Orange being the lower abdomen and genital, that's a second emotion, that's sexuality, another base chakra, urinary tract, reproduction. Yellow being the power, the ego, the solar plexus. Green being associated with the heart, love, sense of responsibility. Blue being associated with the throat, physical and spiritual communication. And indigno is actually forgiveness and compassion, understanding, the pineal gland, the third eye, just above the center of the brow, the middle of the forehead, and violet, the seventh chakra, the crown of the head, connection with universal energies, transmission of ideas and information, pituitary gland, the central nervous system. And actually, I found it kind of interesting that, some of this color association, if you look back in the Bible or if you even look back in ancient times, actually in the Roman times, the imperial purple was associated with royalty, violet. So, maybe the association with ideas and information, the crown of the head. So, quite interesting in that respect. Actually, I'm going to go over a couple aspects of this because I'm not going to delve deeply into some of the things about this, but I'm going to kind of bring up a few interesting points, I believe. Now, first off, there's actually a theory out there, and they in Western medicine, they dismiss this as a pseudoscience, but there's a lot of anecdotal information or that it's maybe not. Maybe it's not totally pseudoscience, but anyway, I'm going to put the two where it's mostly, where you might say there's a little bit of medical to it. Red is associated with hydrogen and stimulating. Blue is associated with oxygen and sedative. Now, actually, when you think about those colors, and actually pretty much common knowledge out there, red has been a color associated with anger, or, you've even heard of this expression, caught red-handed. That's something where you stole something, or actually, I can put it as a side note. If you look at the color of fish that are red, that we see that are closer to like in a fish tank, that you can see they have a lot of ambient light. When they get down deeper into the water, they actually look black because red is the first color of the broad light spectrum that is blocked out. So they actually look camouflage deep in the water. So, sometimes, you wonder why some things are that way in nature. That might be a little side note why there would be such a bright red fish, but actually it's a black fish. When it's deep in the water, it's not well seen. But if you notice also this color associated with emotions, insurance companies will actually charge, well, not all of them, but actually actuarial studies have showed that the red cars have more accidents. They're involved in more accidents. So they actually will charge you accordingly sometimes to the color of your car, believe it or not, even though you do not actually maybe know that, but there's a slight charge actually on some insurance policies for that, the color of your car, believe it or not. So anyway, violet again is associated, in other words, the purple is associated with artistic qualities. Yellow is associated with intellect and mental clarity, and green is associated with balance and healing, which is the color of nature. Actually, that's green is associated with Islam for that reason, because they're naturalist in a lot of ways. That's something else. Just put it as a side note. But I just want to point out that some of this stuff we're talking about with the chakra points and actually these frequencies, they go back to early work by Nogier, and if you actually want to experiment with some of this stuff, you can actually do it cheaply using the Spooky 2 program. So, if this actually seems like a little bit, too new age for some people or whatever, you might want to do a little more research, because this is going to be a quick overview video on this stuff, but you can actually get into a lot more of the medicine from India, the ancient medicine from India, and probably experiment a little bit more with it in a very economical way by using the Spooky 2 program and the Spooky 2 Ripe software. So I just want to point that out. Now there's an additional, actually this may not be related exactly to color therapy, but it's called blood irradiation therapy using laser light with the infrared spectrum. Now, this may actually, in my opinion, I'm a layman now, I'm not a medical doctor, but this seems rooted in a lot of science. It's maybe not something that's practiced in the United States, but I do want to point out that it says it right here. This is confirmed good source. Laser blood irradiation therapy was government certified in Germany in 2005. In the following 2 years, this method was established in more than 300 centers in Germany, Austria, Switzerland, and Italy, and Australia. So it's not just something. It initially was found with Russian science researchers in 1981 and introduced in clinical practice in 1981, but it's actually coming around where it may be something highly, highly beneficial. So this is along the lines of maybe something a little bit analogous to the color light therapy, but this is actually using infrared. Now, the original method was applied with cardiovascular problems. Now, the original method is actually being used, like in this picture here, intravenously. Now, I want to point out there's actually, and now I'm not going to make any claims on this, but this Sota Instruments Lightworks, they'll have various color paddles that you can buy with this, but the standard Lightworks comes with the infrared paddle, and it supposedly has a penetration in the body of like over an inch, 30 to 40 centimeters. So it gets in there quite a bit. So in other words, it can actually possibly, I would almost think, I'm taking a little bit of an educated guess here, but when we're talking about the blood irradiation therapy using infrared and using it in this manner, in an intravenous way, possibly maybe you might be provided some of the benefits, the alleged benefits, by using Sota Instruments Lightworks. That is quite an interesting theory, in my opinion, because, and I'm saying again, I'm a layman, and I'm not saying it's actually related to this, the color therapy, but then again, when Sota Instruments Lightworks has manufactured that device, it's based upon existing research, not their research, but existing research that goes back quite a few years, actually. Some of this came out in the 30s. I know it's been dismissed in the United States as quackery, but I am not 100% on one side or the other. I would actually venture to say, even in the United States, that some of the colors, as far as emitting emotions, are very much proven. Now, as far as actually having therapeutic benefits, where it is making a physiological change in the body for the better, that I don't know if it's actually, there's been some studies, and I know there's been numerous studies who are saying some of these colors have actually helped heal the body, but although they even dismiss it today as pseudoscience, there has been studies that showed it did do this back in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s, and since that time it's been dismissed as pseudoscience. But what I'm saying is that possibly what may be going on is, it may be something where the person's mood has been altered and it caused them in their mind to have a different attitude that creates the situation? I really don't know. I really don't know, because this is something getting on a little bit beyond what I really like to delve in, because of I like to delve into something that's really hard empirical science. But actually, some cases, it's been alleged that a lot of times these colors have had effect on the body. Now, in the case of Soto Instruments, they actually have these other paddles with they'll have the red paddle, the green paddle, the yellow paddle, the orange paddle, the blue paddle, and they're associated. Actually, they emit frequencies, and it's alleged that these frequencies can have different benefits, not by them, but by prior research. And it's probably a lot more science to it than the Western world admits, because, like, I have to point out again, this blood irradiation therapy has now been officially government certified in Germany as of 2005, and then in 2007 it was established in more than 300 centers, not just in Germany, but Austria, Australia, Italy, and Switzerland. So it's taking root big time in the West, except in the United States. It may come to the United States eventually, I don't know. But it's actually been more with illumination of the blood to solve cardiovascular problems or problems with the blood. Now, actually, you would think that ultraviolet light would somehow harm pathogens, and I guess some of this might go along with just ordinary sunlight that we use and take for granted every day, because ordinary sunlight actually is something that has a lot of beneficial attributes that can happen, that can relate to the body, because people just take it for granted. It's almost like breathing air. They don't even think about it, but its importance is probably far greater than is recognized, because people take it for granted, and maybe this spectrum of light that's within the sunlight offers more therapeutic benefits other than just the typical psychological, where red might emit anger, blue might emit like calming and things like that, or green might emit a feeling of calmness or something, So anyway, blue actually, you might think of it as moody or sedative. That's pretty much widely accepted even in the United States, but where colors actually emit emotions. But what's not widely accepted at all is the fact that is the theory that they might have physiological changes to the body. But in some Eastern medicines, it is practiced and believed that it does have effect on the body. Whereas also, I just want to point out again that the blood irradiation using infrared actually is coming on very strong in the West, except in the United States. Now, may it follow that possibly color light therapy is going to come about someday to help heal the body? I don't know. That's a possibility, because there seems to be a big divergence between Eastern medicine, quote unquote, and Western medicine. And it seems to be that some things in Eastern medicine are being very, very slowly adapted in Western medicine. Although I do have a very difficult time wrapping my head around how a color could actually influence a physiological change in the body other than an emotion. Although I will, I can understand how infrared can possibly knock out pathogens in the blood or affect the blood. I could believe that quite readily, but color itself, I have a hard time believing myself that color, in my personal opinion, will have a physiological change on the body other than in emotions. Color has a big influence on the what people perceive. In other words, if you're wearing a color blue, you'll be perceived as maybe truthful or something like that. Maybe if you're wearing a red suit, you might be considered almost like a clown or something. I don't know. So it's like, this is actually well known in the business world that different color ties or different color suits can make a big difference on your impact when you're making a presentation to people. So, I mean, it's not, as far as the emotional and psychological aspect of it, colors are something that are recognized as having an effect in the Western world too, but as far as having a medical or physiological effect, it seems to be more the realm of Eastern medicine. But if you ever want to experiment with it, the Sota Instruments Lightworks has these color paddles, but probably the most beneficial would be the infrared, which seems to be something that is based on really hard science, because if it's actually penetrating the skin and getting deep in the body, I think that would, in my mind, it would be somewhat akin to the infrared light therapy that's being administered in Germany, Austria, Switzerland, and Australia and Italy today. That's actually been sanctioned by the government. So that's something else. And also, if you just want to like use these Nogier, I don't know if you can read this, these Nogier points. This is something actually during the time of World Rife, if you heard of World Rife. These are all included in the Spooky 2 program. And I'm not going to go on in detail, but you can actually see who is actually putting these frequencies out in here, what they're supposedly allegedly to address, and you can further research. The point of this video is just to kind of make people aware that there may be something more to Eastern medicines that Western medicines call, Western medicine typically calls chromotherapy total quackery, and it may not be. It may not be. But then again, on the other side, I don't think it's, my personal opinion is if it was super strong, it would be more well known. But it may have some kind of benefits besides in an emotional way or in a physiological way. You never know. Maybe Eastern medicine is partly correct. So just want to point this out and as a point of interest, because there's a lot more to, medicinal approaches than has been, taken over the last so many years. And, there needs to be a good look at what's going on in China, in India, and in Russia, and even in Europe now that the United States is not adopting. And if it's cost effective, that could bring down the overall health costs, where we have this crisis situation where people can't afford health care. So you never know. You never know. It might actually have some kind of benefits. So it's worth looking into. That's my whole point.